Commander Jack Peterson stared at the message on his screen for the fifth time. He still couldn't believe what he was reading. The Galactic Federation, which had kept humans at arm's length for 3 decades, was inviting Earth to send representatives to their elite combat academy. This has to be some kind of joke, he muttered, running a hand through his short gray hair. The office door slid open, and Admiral Susan Wright walked in. Her uniform was perfect as always, her posture straight despite her 60 years of age. "So you got the invitation too," she said, noticing the message on his screen. "What do you think?" Jack leaned back in his chair. "I think they're up to something. Why now?" "Why us?" Susan took a seat across from him. "Because they can't ignore us anymore. Our ships are exploring farther into space each year. Our colonies are growing. They need to either bring us into the fold or risk us becoming a problem." Jack nodded slowly. The Galactic Federation had classified Earth as a death world when they first made contact. Humans had evolved on a planet with higher gravity, more dangerous wildlife, and harsher conditions than most intelligent species in the galaxy. What humans saw as normal, aliens saw as terrifying. "So who do we send?" Jack asked. "If we accept this invitation, we need our best." Susan pulled out a tablet and slid it across the desk. "I've already made some picks. Take a look." Jack scrolled through the files of 4 officers: Lieutenant Olivia Martinez, Sergeant Alan Phillips, Lieutenant Eric Howard, and Captain Nicole Bennett. He looked up. "Only 4? That's all they'll allow," Susan said. The invitation was very specific. Jack studied each file more carefully. Olivia Martinez was a tactical specialist with reflexes that tested off the charts. Alan Phillips had served in special forces and survived situations that should have killed him. Eric Howard was quiet but brilliant, able to spot patterns and predict enemy movements better than any computer. Nicole Bennett was a natural leader who kept her cool under pressure. "They're young," Jack noted. "They're the future," Susan replied, "and they represent different aspects of what makes humans special. If anyone can show the galaxy what we're capable of, it's them." 3 days later, the 4 officers stood at attention in the briefing room. Captain Nicole Bennett, at 32, was the oldest. Her brown hair was pulled back in a tight bun, her green eyes alert and focused. Beside her stood Lieutenant Olivia Martinez, 28, with quick eyes that seemed to notice everything. Sergeant Alan Phillips, 30, stood with the easy confidence of someone who had faced death and wasn't impressed. Lieutenant Eric Howard, 29, was the most unassuming of the group, but his mind was always working. "At ease," Jack said as he entered with Susan. "Take a seat." The officers sat down, back still straight, eyes forward. "You've been selected for a mission of extreme importance," Susan began. "For the first time, humans will attend the Galactic Combat Academy. This is not just a training opportunity. It's a chance to change how the entire galaxy sees us." Jack activated a hologram showing a massive space station. "This is the Academy. It orbits a neutral world in the Arcturus system. It's been training the galaxy's elite security forces for over 500 years. The instructors are mainly Valthusians, a warrior race with rigid ideas about combat and honor. And they don't think much of humans," Susan added. "To them, we're unpredictable, dangerous, and uncivilized. They call us Deathworlders like it's an insult." Nicole raised her hand. "Admiral, if they think so little of us, why invite us now?" Susan smiled thinly. "Good question. Some members of the Federation Council have been pushing for better relations with Earth. Others may want to put us in our place by showing how primitive our combat skills are compared to theirs. Either way, this is our chance to prove ourselves." Alan leaned forward. "So we're supposed to play nice while they look down on us?" "No," Jack said firmly. "You're supposed to excel, show them what humans can do, but do it with discipline. Every move you make will be judged. Every success or failure will reflect on all of humanity." Eric, who had been quiet, finally spoke. "They've studied us, but we know very little about them. We'll be at a disadvantage." "That's where you're wrong," Susan said, tapping her tablet. "We've been gathering intelligence on the Academy for years, hoping for this opportunity. You'll have access to everything we know. You have 3 months to prepare before you leave." The next 3 months were intense. The team trained together 16 hours a day. They studied alien physiology, learning the strengths and weaknesses of every major species. They practiced in simulated environments with higher or lower gravity, different atmospheres, extreme temperatures. They learned enough of the common galactic language to get by, though all Academy instruction would be translated. Nicole pushed herself and her team hard. She knew they would face prejudice and challenges designed to make them fail. They needed to be ready for anything. The night before their departure, Nicole couldn't sleep. She stood at the window of her quarters, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there was the Academy, and a galaxy of aliens who thought they knew what humans were capable of. She smiled slightly. They were in for a surprise. The journey to the Academy took 2 weeks in Earth's fastest ship. As they approached the massive station, Nicole gathered her team in the ship's common area. "This is it," she said, looking at each of them. "From now on, we're not just soldiers, we're ambassadors. Every alien on that station thinks they know what we are. Dangerous primitives from a harsh world who somehow developed space travel." Olivia grinned. "Let's show them what Deathworlders can really do." The docking process took nearly an hour. When the airlock finally opened, they were met by a tall, blue-skinned alien in an ornate uniform. His 4 eyes blinked at different times as he looked them over. "I am Sub-Commander Vexlor," he said, his words translated by the small devices attached to their collars. "I will escort you to your quarters. The welcoming ceremony begins in 3 hours. High Marshal Zexkar expects punctuality." As they followed Vexlor through the station's corridors, other aliens stopped to stare. Some whispered to each other. Others moved out of the way as if the humans might attack them. "They're afraid of us," Eric said quietly. "Good," Alan replied. "Fear is a start. Respect will come later." The quarters assigned to them were small but comfortable. After a brief rest, they put on their dress uniforms and made their way to the Great Hall for the ceremony. The hall was filled with aliens of every shape and size. Some floated in the air, others crawled on multiple legs, still others stood on 2 or 4 limbs. All eyes turned to the humans as they entered. High Marshal Zexkar, a massive Valthusian with scaled skin and a ridge of spines down his back, stood on a raised platform. When the humans approached, he looked down at them with 6 yellow eyes. "We welcome Earth's representatives to our esteemed institution," he announced, his deep voice echoing through the hall. "Though your species lacks the noble warrior traditions of established Federation members, perhaps you will learn something of value to take back to your primitive world." Nicole stepped forward and bowed exactly as they had been instructed. Not too low, showing respect but not submission. "We thank the Academy for this opportunity," she replied. "We have much to learn, and perhaps something to teach as well." A murmur ran through the crowd. Zexkar's eyes narrowed, but he continued with the ceremony, assigning each human to a different training cohort. They would be separated, facing the Academy's challenges alone. As the ceremony ended and the crowd began to disperse, Nicole caught the eyes of her team members. No words were needed. They all understood the challenge ahead. They were humans, Deathworlders, and they were about to show the galaxy exactly what that meant. Lieutenant Eric Howard sat in the tactical analysis classroom, surrounded by aliens from across the galaxy. The instructor, a thin Valthusian named Trazikor, was explaining a standard approach to urban combat. Eric noticed 3 flaws in the strategy immediately but kept quiet. He had learned that speaking up only brought trouble. It had been 2 weeks since the humans arrived at the Academy. 2 weeks of subtle and not-so-subtle insults, of being treated like dangerous animals rather than equals. 2 weeks of proving themselves over and over, only to be dismissed. "The key to urban operations is systematic sector control," Trazikor was saying. "Moving from position to position in formation, securing each area before advancing." A Centaurian, trainee, raised one of his 4 hands. "But what about the time factor? A systematic approach takes longer and gives the enemy time to prepare." Trazikor nodded approvingly. A good observation. However, the risks of a faster, less methodical approach outweigh the benefits. This is established doctrine. Eric couldn't help himself. With respect, sir, humans have found that adaptable, rapid movement often works better in urban settings. The unpredictability confuses the enemy and prevents them from setting up effective defenses. The room went silent. Trazicor turned all 6 of his yellow eyes toward Eric. How interesting, he said coldly. The Deathworlder believes his primitive combat experiences are relevant to modern galactic warfare. Tell me, Lieutenant Howard, does your species still use projectile weapons that fire small metal objects? Several trainees laughed. Eric kept his face neutral. Some units do, sir. They remain effective in certain situations. I rest my case, Trazicor said. Now, as I was saying before the interruption, Eric stopped listening. He made notes instead about the Valthusian approach, identifying its weaknesses. The information might be useful later. In another part of the station, Sergeant Alan Phillips was having an even worse time. The weapons training instructor, a burly draconian named Krull, seemed to take personal pleasure in highlighting human inferiority. Observe the Deathworlders' reaction time, Krull said as Alan completed a targeting exercise. Not bad for a primitive species, but notice the lack of precision compared to Arcturian standards. In fact, Alan had hit all targets dead center, but his score was marked down for improper stance according to Draconian form. It was the 3rd time this week his performance had been unfairly judged. The next trainee, a tall Draconian named Vex, stepped up to the firing line. He was Krull's nephew and made no secret of his dislike for humans. As he fired at the targets, he accidentally turned slightly, pointing his energy pistol in Alan's direction. Alan's instincts kicked in instantly. He dropped to the floor as the energy bolt passed over him, hitting the wall where he had been standing. The room erupted, in shouts and confusion. "Control your weapon!" Krull snapped at his nephew, though there was little real anger in his voice. Vex lowered his pistol. "My apologies. The weapon must have malfunctioned." Alan got to his feet slowly. He knew it was no malfunction. He also knew that showing anger would only reinforce the stereotype of humans as violent and unpredictable. Instead, he walked calmly to Vex, held out his hand, and said, "May I?" Confused, Vex handed over the pistol. In one smooth motion, Alan disassembled it, removed a small component, and reassembled it. He handed it back. The targeting gyro was misaligned. It should work properly now. The entire class stared in shock. The weapon was supposed to be too advanced for humans to understand, let alone repair on the spot. Alan returned to his position, as if nothing unusual had happened, but word of the incident spread quickly through the academy. Lieutenant Olivia Martinez was faring somewhat better in her physical training cohort, but only because her abilities were too obvious to deny. The gravity in the academy was set to the galactic standard, which was only 0.8 of Earth's gravity. This gave her a significant advantage in strength and agility. "Again," said her instructor, a 4-armed Quatori named Zilx. This time with the resistance set higher. Olivia ran the obstacle course for the 3rd time that day. She leaped over barriers, climbed walls, and swung across gaps with a grace that made it look easy. When she finished, her time was half that of the next fastest trainee. Zilx examined the results with all 4 of her eyes blinking rapidly. "Impressive," she admitted reluctantly. "But raw physical ability is not everything. A true warrior needs discipline and technique." "I agree," Olivia said respectfully. "I would welcome any guidance you can offer to improve my technique." The response seemed to surprise Zilix. Perhaps she had expected argument or arrogance. After a moment, she nodded. "We will begin with the proper way to distribute force in a zero-gravity environment. Your Earth techniques would be useless there." It was the closest thing to respect any of the humans had received. Captain Nicole Bennett was having the hardest time of all. As team leader, she was placed in the officer training cohort, where political skills were as important as tactical ones. The other officer candidates came from species with centuries of interstellar diplomatic experience. They knew which instructors to flatter, which to avoid, and how to form alliances. Nicole was eating alone in the dining hall when a shadow fell across her table. She looked up to see Krav Zex, the son of High Marshal Zexkar and the top-ranked A cadet in the academy. "Captain Bennett," he said, his voice a low rumble. "May I join you?" Nicole gestured to the seat across from her. "Please do." Krav Zex sat down, his scaled skin reflecting the light. "I have been observing your team's progress. You face many challenges here." "We expected that," Nicole replied carefully. "Did you expect sabotage? Prejudice? Rigged evaluations?" Krav Zex asked bluntly. Nicole maintained her composure. "We prepared for obstacles both fair and unfair." Krav Zex leaned forward. "My father believes humans are dangerous, that you should be contained, not integrated into the Federation. Others disagree. I have not yet formed my opinion. And you're telling me this because in 3 days the Academy will announce the Centennial Combat Tournament. It is held only once every 100 years. Normally, first-cycle trainees are not permitted to compete, but my father will make an exception for your team." Nicole understood immediately. "He wants to humiliate us publicly." Krav Zex's four-way jaw clicked in what might have been amusement. "Yes. And if you refuse to participate, it will confirm the belief that humans lack courage." "A perfect trap," Nicole said. "Thank you for the warning." "I did not warn you," Krav Zex replied, standing up. "I simply shared information. What you do with it is your concern." That night, Nicole gathered her team in her quarters. Academy rules prohibited trainees from different cohorts meeting after hours, but Eric had already found blind spots in the surveillance system. "So we're being set up to fail," Alan said after Nicole explained what Krav Zex had told her. "Yes," Nicole agreed, "but they're underestimating us. They think we'll fight according to their rules and doctrines, which we haven't fully learned." Olivia smiled. "So we fight like humans instead?" Eric nodded eagerly. "I've been collecting data on all the instructors and top trainees. They're predictable. They follow the same patterns every time." "And we don't," Nicole said. "That's our advantage. We adapt." The team spent hours planning their approach to the tournament. They would train separately during official hours, but meet secretly at night to develop strategies that no one at the academy would expect. As they were about to leave, Alan asked the question they were all thinking. "Why did Krav Zex tell you about this? Whose side is he on?" Nicole shook her head. "I don't know, but it doesn't matter. We're not here to pick sides in their politics. We're here to show them what humans can do." The team dispersed, each returning to their quarters through different routes to avoid detection. The next day, High Marshal Zexkar made the announcement just as Krav Zex had predicted. The humans were invited to form a team for the prestigious tournament. Nicole accepted immediately, her face revealing nothing of their late-night planning. The stage was set for a confrontation that would change how the galaxy viewed humans forever. The Academy's training center was nearly empty during the night cycle. Most species needed more rest than humans, giving Nicole and her team the perfect opportunity to prepare for the tournament without being watched. "Here's what we know," Eric said, displaying a hologram of the tournament arena. "The first round will be in this urban setting. Teams have to capture and hold 3 points while defending against the other team." Alan studied the layout. "Standard stuff. But look at these narrow passages between buildings. The Arcturians we're facing first are twice our size. They'll avoid these areas." "Which is exactly where we'll operate," Nicole said. "They expect us to fight for the main control points directly. We won't." Olivia was practicing a movement technique she had developed, combining Earth martial arts with the lower gravity of the station. "I've been watching the Arcturians in physical training. They're strong but slow to change direction. If we keep moving, they can't track us well." The team spent 3 hours developing their strategy, then dispersed before the night shift guards made their rounds. They had only 10 days until the tournament began. During regular training hours, they were careful to show improvement, but not to reveal their true capabilities. Eric asked questions that made him seem slower to understand than he really was. Alan deliberately scored in the middle range on weapons tests. Olivia held back in physical training, though even at half effort she outperformed most trainees. Nicole observed everything, gathering information on the other teams. Most importantly, she watched Kravzex and his elite Valthusian team, who were favored to win the tournament. They followed textbook strategies perfectly, never deviating from established doctrine. Their precision was impressive but predictable. 6. Days before the tournament, Nicole was summoned to High Marshal Zexkar's office. The massive Valthusian sat behind a desk made of polished stone, his 6 eyes focusing on her as she entered. "Captain Bennett," he said, "I trust your team is preparing adequately for the tournament." "As well as we can, sir," Nicole replied neutrally. "Good. I would hate to see Earth embarrassed by a poor showing." His tone made it clear he expected exactly that outcome. "The Federation Council will be watching. Many important figures want to see how humans perform under pressure." Nicole kept her expression blank. "We'll do our best to represent Earth well." "I'm sure you will." Zexkar tapped a claw on his desk. "I've noticed your team members are often tired during training. Are they not adapting well to the Academy's cycle?" So they had been noticed. Nicole thought quickly. "Humans need less sleep than many species, sir. Sometimes we have trouble adjusting to longer rest periods." "I see." Zexkar didn't sound convinced. "Remember that the training center is off limits during night cycle, for safety reasons." "Of course, sir. We wouldn't dream of breaking Academy rules." As Nicole turned to leave, Zexkar added, "One more thing, Captain. The tournament's second round will feature environmental hazards. I hope your team is prepared for extreme conditions." It was clearly meant as a warning, but Nicole simply nodded. "Thank you for the information, sir." That night, Nicole told her team about the meeting. "They know we're training at night, but they can't prove it. And now we know the second round will have environmental challenges." Eric grinned. "Perfect. We're Deathworlders, remember? Extreme conditions are our specialty." The team adjusted their training to prepare for whatever environmental challenges might be thrown at them. They practiced in the dark, in simulated rain, and in areas with reduced oxygen, all conditions they had faced on Earth but that most alien species found difficult. The day before the tournament, the entire Academy was buzzing with excitement. Betting pools had the human team eliminated in the first round, with odds of 30-1 against them even making it to the quarterfinals. The Valthusian team, led by Kravzex, was heavily favored to win. In the dining hall, other trainees either ignored the humans or made comments just loud enough to be overheard. "I hear Deathworlders fight like animals when cornered. They'll probably break the rules and get disqualified. My cousin served on a diplomatic mission to Earth. Said the whole planet smells like a swamp." Alan clenched his fist around his fork but said nothing. Olivia placed a calming hand on his arm. "Save it for tomorrow," she whispered. That night, as the team made final preparations, Nicole noticed that Eric seemed troubled. "What's wrong?" she asked. Eric hesitated. "I've been thinking about why we're really here. The Federation has kept humans at arm's length for 30 years. Why invite us now? Why set us up to fail so publicly?" "Politics," Nicole suggested. "Some factions want to keep Earth isolated. A poor showing by us would support their position." "Maybe," Eric said. "But what if there's more to it? What if they're afraid of us?" Alan snorted. "Afraid? They treat us like primitives." "Exactly," Eric said. "They dismiss our technology, our tactics, our abilities. It's like they're trying to convince themselves we're not a threat." Olivia looked thoughtful. "The way people act extra tough when they're actually scared." "If they are afraid," Nicole said, "tomorrow will only make it worse. But we're not here to frighten anyone. We're here to earn respect." The morning of the tournament arrived. The arena had been transformed into a detailed urban simulation. With buildings, streets, and realistic lighting, spectators filled the viewing areas above, including Federation officials and military observers from dozens of worlds. Nicole led her team to the preparation area. where they were issued standard training weapons. The weapons fired energy pulses that caused temporary numbness rather than actual harm. Sensors on their uniforms would register hits and assess damage. "Remember the plan," Nicole said quietly. "We split into two pairs. Alan and I create distractions. Olivia and Eric secure the objectives. We communicate only by hand signals unless absolutely necessary." The other teams were reviewing tactics on holographic displays or performing last-minute equipment checks. The Arcturian team they would face first was composed of 4 massive warriors with blue crystalline skin. Their captain, Zorn, nodded respectfully to Nicole. "May the best team win, human," he said. "May we all learn something," Nicole replied. Loud tone signaled that teams should prepare to enter the arena. Nicole looked at each member of her team. They had trained hard, but they were still considered underdogs by everyone in the academy. "No matter what happens in there," she said, "I'm proud of what we've accomplished. We've already proven we belong here, whether they recognize it or not." Alan grinned. "Let's make them recognize it. And remember," Eric added, "they expect us to fight like them. That's their mistake." Olivia bounced lightly on her toes, already adapting to the arena's slightly lower gravity. "Time to show them what Deathworlders can do." The entry doors slid open. The tournament was about to begin, and the galaxy was watching. Nicole took a deep breath and led her team forward. "Let's go change some minds." The buzzer sounded, and the human team entered the urban arena. The artificial city stretched before them with tall buildings, narrow alleys, and 3 glowing control points they needed to capture. The Arcturian team entered from the opposite side, their blue crystalline forms moving with confident precision. Nicole gave a hand signal and the team split instantly. This was already different from standard tactics, which called for teams to stay together for mutual protection. The crowd murmured in surprise. "What are they doing?" a Valthusian observer asked. "They've abandoned formation." High Marshal Zexkar watched with narrowed eyes. A desperate strategy from an undisciplined species. In the arena, Nicole and Alan moved toward the central control point, making no attempt to hide their approach. The Arcturians, seeing only half the human team, sent 3 of their members to intercept while their 4th moved to secure one of the side control points. This was exactly what the humans had predicted. Olivia slipped through a narrow alley that the larger Arcturians couldn't easily navigate, moving silently toward the western control point. Eric took an even more unexpected route, scaling the side of a building to travel across rooftops toward the eastern point. The crowd grew louder as they realized what was happening. No team had ever split their forces this way. It violated every principle of academy training. Nicole and Alan reached the central plaza and immediately took cover behind opposite barriers. The 3 Arcturians approached cautiously, their weapons ready. They moved in perfect formation, covering all angles of approach, except from above. Alan fired 3 quick shots to draw attention, then ducked down as return fire hit his barrier. While the Arcturians focused on Alan, Nicole slipped behind a different piece of cover, then another, working her way around to their flank. "The humans are being pushed back," commented an academy instructor. As expected. But it was a deliberate retreat. Alan kept falling back, drawing the Arcturians forward step by step into exactly the position Nicole wanted them. When they were perfectly aligned, Nicole gave a sharp whistle. Alan immediately popped up and fired rapidly, forcing the Arcturians to turn their attention to him. In that moment, Nicole struck from behind, hitting each Arcturian with precision, shots to their sensor points. The first Arcturian suit registered complete incapacitation and locked up, removing him from the match. The other 2 spun to face Nicole, but Alan had already moved to a new position and hit one from the side. The crowd was no longer murmuring, they were shouting in disbelief. No one had ever seen such fluid, adaptive tactics. The Arcturians fought by the book, but the humans seemed to be writing a new one with every move. Meanwhile, Olivia had reached the western control point unopposed. She quickly activated it, claiming it for the human team. A section of the scoreboard lit up green, showing the humans had taken the lead. Eric was having a harder time. The Arcturian who had split off earlier had reached the eastern control point first. Eric observed from a rooftop, considering his options. The Arcturian was twice his size and heavily armored. A direct confrontation would be difficult. So he didn't confront. Instead, Eric created a diversion. He broke off a piece of the building's facade and threw it to land with a crash some distance from the control point. When the Arcturian turned to investigate, Eric slid down a drain pipe and rushed to the control point. By the time the Arcturian realized the trick, Eric had activated the point and taken cover in a defensible position. 2 control points now glowed green on the scoreboard. The crowd was stunned into silence. Back at the central plaza, Nicole and Alan had eliminated all 3 Arcturians through a series of coordinated movements that seemed almost like a dance. They never stayed still, never followed a predictable pattern, and communicated with hand signals that the Arcturians couldn't interpret. Nicole activated the central control point, and the final section of the scoreboard turned green. A loud tone sounded, signaling the end of the round. The human team had won in less than 5 minutes, a new academy record. "Impossible," said Trazakor, Eric's tactical instructor. "They violated every principle of proper formation and sector control." "No," said another instructor slowly. "They simply used different principles." In the observation booth, High Marshal Zexkar's expression was unreadable. His son Kravzex stood beside him. "The humans are more adaptable than we expected," Kravzex said. "One victory against Arcturians proves nothing," Zexkar replied. "The next round will test them properly." The second round began an hour later. This time, the arena had been transformed into a harsh environment, a frozen landscape with howling winds and limited visibility. The temperature was well below freezing, and ice covered every surface. Their opponents were a team of Centaurians, known for their heavy weapons and physical strength. Most species found such cold debilitating, but Earth had polar regions just as harsh, and the humans had trained for this. While the Centaurians moved slowly, their joints stiffening in the cold, the human team seemed almost energized by the challenge. "Remember mountain training," Nicole told her team. "Conserve heat, keep moving, use the wind to mask sounds." The objective this time was to capture the opponent's flag while defending their own. The humans used the poor visibility to their advantage, separating again but staying within supporting range of each other. Eric predicted the most likely routes the Centaurians would take, allowing the humans to set up ambush points. Olivia's speed made her nearly invisible in the swirling snow. She circled around the entire arena while the rest of the team engaged the Centaurians in a series of quick skirmishes. By the time the Centaurians realized Olivia was missing, she had already infiltrated their base and taken their flag. The crowd couldn't believe what they were seeing. The humans didn't just survive in the harsh environment, they thrived in it. They moved faster, shot more accurately, and communicated better than their opponents despite the challenging conditions. The second round ended with another human victory. The scoreboard showed their time, 3 minutes and 42 seconds, another record. In the preparation area between rounds, other teams were now watching the humans carefully, studying their movements, trying to identify patterns. But there were no patterns. Each human moved differently, adapted differently, thought differently. "They're not fighting according to any recognizable doctrine," one instructor told High Marshal Zexkar. "It's as if each one invents new tactics on the spot." "Then we must force them to fight conventionally," Zexkar replied. "The quarter-final round will have strict formation requirements." When Nicole was informed of the change, she smiled. "They're trying to take away our advantage," she told her team. "But they don't understand what our real advantage is." "What's that?" Alan asked. "We're not just good at breaking the rules," Nicole said. "We're good at using the rules in ways they never considered." The quarter-final round required all Team MAR members to stay within 5 meters of each other at all times. Any team that broke formation would be penalized. The arena was set up as a large, open battleground with minimal cover, a setting that should have favored the draconian team they were facing, with their superior firepower. But the humans had a plan for this too. Moving as a tight unit, they created a mobile defensive formation that shifted constantly, making them difficult to target. They used synchronized movements, fainting in one direction then rapidly changing to another, confusing the Draconians who expected a static exchange of fire. The crowd watched in amazement as the humans turned the formation requirement into an asset rather than a limitation. They moved like a single organism with 4 parts, each member instinctively knowing where the others were and what they were doing. The Draconians, expecting an easy victory against the constrained humans, found themselves outmaneuvered and overwhelmed. The round ended with yet another human victory. As the team left the arena, Nicole noticed Kravzex watching them intently. The Valthusian elite team had also advanced to the semifinals. A confrontation seemed inevitable. 3 down, Olivia said excitedly. How many more rounds until we win this thing? 2, Eric replied. Semifinals and finals, but they'll be much harder. The remaining teams will have studied our tactics. Good thing we don't have tactics, Alan said with a grin. Just adaptability, Nicole nodded. And we'll need all of it for what comes next. The semi-final match drew a much larger crowd than previous rounds. Word had spread about the surprising success of the human team. Federation officials who had come to witness an easy defeat now watched with great interest. Even species that rarely interacted with humans had representatives in the observation deck. They've never seen anything like us, Eric said as the team prepared, but now they're starting to adapt. He was right. Their semi-final opponents, a team of sleek reptilian saurians, had studied recordings of the human matches carefully. The arena for this round was a dense jungle environment with limited visibility and numerous obstacles. This will be different, Nicole warned her team. The saurians are natural hunters. They'll expect us to use the cover and move separately. Alan checked his weapon. So we do the opposite again? Nicole nodded. We stay together but move quickly. No stealth. Make noise, draw them to us, then spring the trap. The strategy worked perfectly. The saurians, expecting the humans to play a stealth game, had spread out to cover more ground. When the humans moved noisily through the jungle, the saurians converged on them from different directions, exactly as Nicole had planned. The human team formed a tight circle, backs to each other, and waited until the last moment. When the saurians attacked, the humans were ready. Each team member handled the threat in their sector with precision and coordination. Olivia's reflexes allowed her to dodge attacks that should have been impossible to avoid. Alan used his combat experience to predict and counter the saurians' moves. Eric coordinated their defense, calling out positions and threats. Within minutes, the saurian team had been eliminated without a single human casualty. The crowd erupted in cheers and shouts of disbelief. They're not just strong or fast, a Federation observer commented. They think differently. They see patterns and possibilities that other species miss. In the preparation area, High Marshal Zexkar approached Nicole. His expression was stern, but there was something new in his eyes, a grudging respect. Your team has performed adequately, he said, but the final match will be different. My son's team has won this tournament 3 times. They are the best the Academy has ever produced. Nicole met his gaze steadily. We look forward to the challenge, sir. The final arena will simulate a civilian evacuation zone, Zexkar continued. There will be non-combatant holograms present. Any team that causes civilian casualties will be penalized severely. We understand, sir. As Zexkar walked away, Eric moved to Nicole's side. They're still trying to limit our options. No, Nicole replied. They're testing our control, not just our combat skills, and that's something we can demonstrate too. The final match was scheduled for the next day. That night, the human team met one last time to prepare. Kravzex's team will be our toughest challenge yet, Nicole said. They're not just skilled. They've been watching us, learning our approach. But we don't have a single approach, Olivia pointed out. We adapt to each situation. Exactly, Nicole agreed. And tomorrow, we'll adapt again. But there's something else I want us to remember. We're not just here to win. We're here to show them what humans really are. Alan frowned. What do you mean? They see us as dangerous, unpredictable Deathworlders, Nicole explained. And yes, we can be those things when necessary. But we're also disciplined, ethical, and capable of precision. Tomorrow's scenario will let us prove that. The next morning, the arena was transformed into a crowded urban center filled with holographic civilians rushing to evacuation points. The objectives were complex. Secure 3 evacuation zones, escort civilian groups to safety, and neutralize the opposing team, all without civilian casualties. The stands were packed. Every trainee and instructor in the academy was present, along with dozens of Federation officials and military observers. This was no longer just a training exercise, it was a demonstration of human capabilities on a galactic stage. As the match began, Kravzex's team moved with perfect precision, securing the first evacuation zone using textbook tactics. They were flawless in their execution, every movement exactly as the Academy manual prescribed. The human team took a different approach. Instead of rushing to secure zones, they first established safe routes for civilian evacuation, clearing paths and guiding holographic civilians toward exits. Eric coordinated their movements, identifying the most efficient evacuation patterns. Alan secured choke points to prevent the Valthusian team from disrupting the flow. Olivia used her speed to move between groups, redirecting civilians away from danger zones. "What are they doing?" asked an academy instructor. "They're focusing on the civilians instead of the objectives." "No," said another more thoughtfully. "The civilians are part of the objective." The humans understood that immediately. By securing safe evacuation routes first, the human team actually accomplished their objectives faster than the Valthusians, who had to work around civilian groups. When the teams finally clashed directly, it was on ground chosen by the humans, an open area away from civilian holograms where they could engage without risk to non-combatants. The final confrontation came down to Nicole facing Kravzex directly while their teams were engaged elsewhere. The Valthusian was stronger and had more reach, but Nicole moved with a fluid grace that seemed to anticipate his every attack. "You fight well, human," Kravzex said as they circled each other. "But not well enough." Nicole didn't waste breath on a reply. She watched his movements, noting the patterns in his attacks, patterns he didn't even realize he had. When he lunged forward, she was already moving, not where he expected, but where he was vulnerable. 3 quick strikes later, Kravzex's suit registered critical hits. He stood frozen in shock as the match-ending tone sounded. The human team had won the Centennial Combat Tournament. The arena fell silent. Then, surprisingly, a slow clap began. It was High Marshal Zexkar himself, standing in the observation booth. One by one, others joined in until the entire arena was filled with applause. In the award ceremony that followed, Zexkar's speech marked a turning point. "Today we have witnessed not just skill, but a new approach to combat. For centuries we have trained according to established doctrines, believing them to be perfect. The human team has shown us that adaptation, creativity, and unconventional thinking have value we had not recognized." He turned to the human team, standing at attention on the platform. "You came to our academy as outsiders. You leave as teachers. The term Deathworlders was once used to set your species apart. Perhaps now it will come to mean those who have learned to thrive under pressure, to adapt to any challenge, and to succeed where others would fail." As the team prepared to return to Earth, they knew they had accomplished something more important than winning a tournament. They had changed perceptions, opened minds, and created new possibilities for humans in the Galactic Federation. "What happens now?" Olivia asked as they packed their few belongings. "Now," Nicole said with a smile, "we go home and prepare. The Academy has requested human instructors for next year's training cycle. This was just the beginning." Eric looked thoughtful. "They were afraid of us because they didn't understand us. Now they're starting to see that humans don't have to be enemies." "We can be valuable allies," Alan agreed. "Once they get past the whole dangerous Deathworlder thing." Nicole laughed. "Oh, I think we should keep that reputation. After all, we are dangerous to anyone who underestimates us." As their shuttle departed the Academy station, Nicole looked back at the massive structure. They had arrived as test subjects, expected to fail. They returned to Earth as pioneers, having shown the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. The day Deathworlders dominated alien combat training was just the first of many days that would change human-alien relations forever.